Okay, hi everyone. Tahara Ezrati here from Applied Intuition, and I'm a trained clairvoyant, and I also teach intuitive development classes. And today I'm here with Laura Denny on the Heart of Healing show. And Laura is a Santa Barbara-based artist and also an art teacher. She teaches sculpting, mixed media, painting. She's taught kids and adults all the way to 104-year-olds. And I'm here with her today to talk about art as medicine or how art can be used to facilitate healing. So, welcome, Laura.
Hello, Tahara. Glad to be here.
Yeah. And so, Laura, tell us, how did you first know that you wanted to get interested in art?
Well, I knew, and it's funny, my best friend growing up said, I remember you told me when you were 4, this is what you wanted to do. And we had been living, my family, we'd been living in Germany for a year, and my parents put me in an all German speaking kindergarten thinking, oh, you know, um, she'll just learn German. Well, I think I was a little bit too young and I was overwhelmed. And so I remember I just was observing other students and the environment, and I just drew the whole entire year. So it really was, art became a lifeline for me because I couldn't speak the language or for whatever reason. So that's where it started.
And did you know that did you decide then, like, I want to be an artist, or was it just that it helped you have something to do and a way to connect or communicate?
I think it helped me, but I also decided that was it for me. So
That's cool. That's pretty young. Okay, so speaking of art and young kids, you've worked a lot with elementary age students. So tell me, how have you observed art is helpful or acts as a healing capacity for elementary aged kids?
well, I mean, whether you're, going to continue to uh, have art be your life's passion or not, I think it's the one class where kids can really express themselves, um, make something with their own hands that they have pride in, um, possibly process other things that are going on in their life. And then if you're the kid that maybe is struggling with academia or other subjects and maybe don't feel very good at those other subjects, it can build confidence with self and connections to others.
Hmm.
So
As you know, I worked at Art from Scrap for many years. And so I could always tell the kids who would come on a field trip who had art in their school because they could get started working on these kind of open-ended art projects. Basically, there was just like lots of different kinds of materials. And we said, make something. And the kids who had regular art classes usually got right to work and could figure out how to get started. And some of the kids who didn't have art, they would just sit there, stand there like, well, what do I do? Like,
right,
we'll walk around the room and, find some stuff that is interesting to you, get some kind of base that you can start gluing things on top of. And it's that whole being able to process how to go from nothing to something. And I think that that applies regardless of what you're creating. If you're creating a piece of art, if you're creating a meal, if you're creating a play, if you're creating a party, if you're trying to learn anything, if you're creating, even it can go to more abstract things like creating a trip or creating a relationship or creating a job. It's the work that I do, it's really about like having your spirit come into your body more and grounding and anchoring that in. And that's part of how you manifest things. And so I think it's really important for kids to see art as a practicing process of how create and go from something to nothing. And I know you had mentioned that you also, along with all of the elementary school kids, you had special ed classes too. So tell me how you saw art helping those kids.
well, before I do that, I just wanted to interject and say that really, and this is something I struggled with in teaching elementary school, art is always kind of looked at as extracurricular,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if we have time. And I was always making a plug that it's not even about art. It's really about interfacing with materials, and it's really about problem solving, right? Because once you have these actual physical objects, especially if you're building something, you've got to find a way to make them stand and be supported. And that really ties into all other subject matters. But um, unfortunately, it's not really seen that way. So, anyway, in terms of the special ed students, um, again, depending on, I've had like the extreme students, like nonverbal, um, and oftentimes I would just find they would get less of art, and really I feel like they needed more. Again, working with hands-on. I'm not getting to the point here. You'll have to edit this out. Um, Maybe.
Well, I know so there, if you don't have a lot of verbal skills or you don't have a lot of analytical skills and intellectually it's difficult for you have some kind of intellectual disability, doing things with your hands can be your avenue to express yourself
Right.
and create.
Or I'm thinking of one specific student, like when you share the slides, who I don't know what the disability was, but her arms were very short. And yet, when I got her on a sewing machine, she figured it out. I mean, she got it. And it was a chance for her to shine, versus all day long, whatever they're doing in special ed. My son was in special ed. And so I always kind of felt bad for those kids, like, because they were working on speech and, whatever it was, but sometimes they get the short end of the stick with art. But these kids they would shine when they got to make something with their own hands.
Yeah, so let me screen share. Okay,
Okay.
Laura, so here's a couple here's the slides made by some of your special ed kids. So tell us a little bit about what this
Well, this
is.
this was such a great project. So what I did ahead of time is the heads of the dolls. Um, it was like plastered. I don't know. I found some funny balls and put plaster on them. So I had the head form, and I had let's see, I had all the fabric. Everything was laid out, and so I think the first thing they did was paint the faces. And the one here with the glasses, she had glasses. So they were supposed to be self-portrait dolls. And you can see they have their name, the little name tag on there. And then there was a station where they could go and pick out the clothing, and with assistance, cut out the clothing. Some of them were able to sew them, some were not. And so this happened, I don't know, maybe it was a 3-4 lesson session. They were assembled, and the last part, same thing. They could grab all these little jewels and hair and add them. And then the best part was I think we ended the year with having a tea party. So I had the whole table set with a tea party, and the dolls were there. And so they had this wonderful party with their dolls. And I believe we took photos of them with their dolls.
Hmm.
So it's a memorable keepsake, something they made um, of themselves, ending in just that community building, you know, eating something together with your doll.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that sounds really cool. I know that there's been other I was volunteering with you and saw there were some other kind of important projects that you did with some of the special ed kids. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second, but also wanted to talk about community art with kids. And we have the watershed mural here. Tell us about this.
Well, and we were trying to remember the year, probably 2012, 2010, something like that. Um, so I was commissioned, it was grant funded to go into the school, talk to the kids about our local watershed, what a watershed is, um, and how to care for it, reduce um, trash flow, right? And so we had to cover, it was 6 panels, And the goal was each panel would be a section of the watershed. So the first one is the mountain, the second one here is urban. And I would go into school and talk about it and say, we're going to do this section. So for the urban section, I needed drawings and paintings of faces and cars. And so basically, I was gathering all this student imagery, almost like cataloging, and then I'd come home and put it on these big, backdrop panels, kind of arrange everything. And the first one, if you can just go back up there, the mountain one, I started also
So,
historically with Chumash, so also the local history of Santa Barbara. So Chumash, its mountains, and um, all of the pictographs were drawn on Trader Joe's grocery bags, and then all kind of obsessively stitched together. There's little bits of trash woven in, like bottle caps. I don't know if you want
yeah,
to.
those are, well, so in the beginning here, not too many bottle caps in the Chumash
Correct.
days, right? But as we get into this urbanization, and
Yep.
I believe, so I worked with Laura on this project. This was through Explore Ecology, and it was some grant funding. We worked with 300 elementary age students, and they were multiple classrooms who were participating in a Flows to the Ocean program that was about reducing pollution on the land so that it doesn't get into the water. So we start with the mountains and then the river flowing through the urban area and then flowing down into the estuary. And I think this is where we start getting some like little bit of trash in there and then down to the ocean. And this is where I have some bottle caps and things. So it goes estuary or river, estuary, and then the ocean, the last two panels of the ocean. And how big are these panels, Laura?
Each one is 3 feet by 3 feet, and then I didn't know what I was getting into, basically, which is probably good because if I had known, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I had to get a special camera. A friend says you need a special camera to take high digital photos, high res, and then that was printed on these laminate panels that they have in national parks.
Mm-hmm.
So the mural exists as on these panels, so it can be outdoors. Um,
Right. And so this is living, and even though it's many years ago, over 10 years ago, it is on the outside deck of the Watershed Resource Center at Arroyo Beach, and you can go there and visit it. And I just think it's cool that, those 300 kids have a piece of community art that they participated in that's also on a public building that they can, go back and visit or take their grandparents to visit or whoever. Um, so I think that's just kind of a cool sense of, belonging. And the kids did, all the little bits of art here. They did that and then these were quilted in. So
right.
so we also talked about gifting and how kids can it helps them have something to give. If you're a 5-year old, it's hard to um come up with a project that you can gift yourself, but if you have an art class, the teacher can help you. So tell us a little bit about gifting.
Well, this gift box project started, it was an occupational therapist. It was her project. You can make gift boxes out of those greeting cards that, open up. Um, and, but what I did with this one is I used all my, when I'm demonstrating online, I'm painting. And so I've all the pages and pages of this material. So I chopped it up, and there's a way to fold it and make boxes, and you can put whatever you want in it. This was for my mom's memorial. I put part of a poem in the lid. Um, and then there was also another little note that said, 3 of the things my mother loved were art. So that's the box. Chocolate. There was a little piece of chocolate in there. And then she loved wildflowers. So that little ball at the bottom with the heart has seeds in it that could be planted. So when people came to the memorial, they each got this box, a little bit of my mom that they could um, take with them, they could take away. And, you know, the thing about gifting is it was healing for me to do. And you're going
Hmm.
to talk about your experience making the box. It was very healing and meditative for me to do. And then I don't know, I just love giving. It's a joyful thing. So um, what's great about the box, you can put what you can personalize it, whatever you want to put in it. So you want to talk about your boxes and what you put in there, or
Sure. Well, okay, so let's
oh, and other things you did.
yeah,
Yeah.
another thing that um well, so in 2018 I had a pretty severe concussion. I went into post-concussion syndrome and was dealing with this brain injury that was really horrifically bad. And Laura helped me out quite a bit. For the first 6 months, I couldn't do anything. But after about 9 months, I started being well enough to do maybe like one little thing a day. And so Laura was kind enough to let me volunteer in her elementary art class. It was just something for me to do, somewhere to go. And she taught me how to do the boxes. I actually made dozens and dozens of those boxes, and I filled them with oftentimes kumquats. And it was just something that I had to give to friends, to give to the different doctors I was going to. I would even leave them as tips, part of a tip in a restaurant for people. And mostly it was a thing for me to do. There was something about the symmetrical folding of the boxes that actually helped my brain rewire a little bit. I also made a lot of origami, and that folding was really helpful. And I was volunteering in another teacher's classroom, taught the kids how to do origami. I made, dozens and dozens of cards, and I made um, gift cards too. So these are some of the gift cards I made, and it was, about a 10-15 minute project at a time, which was about all I could handle. I couldn't do a big project, but when you feel like shit and you can't really do anything, like barely can hold your head up for more than 15 minutes at a time, being able to do something, make something, for me was very healing. And it's also just a distraction when you feel really, really bad and there's nothing you can do to feel better. Sometimes just distracting yourself is all you can do. And so the cards, that was helpful in that way. Gave me something to do. It gave me something to give to people. Here's a little image of the origami foxes. And also just being able to make something beautiful, even if it's very simple, kind of validates that you're still a human, that you're still alive, that you can create. So that was super helpful. Art was actually life-saving to me in those times. So anyway, thank you for all your assistance. And Laura would give me little projects. That was something that we also talked about, where with both young kids, older people who are kind of in decline or have dementia, people who are injured, people who are ill, people who have physical disabilities, the role of the art teacher is super important as far as creating projects that they can do. Something that you can do, even if it's super simple. It's it's a very healing capacity to be in, to give that assistance. And so, when the pandemic came, one of the things that we both talked about and noticed was that, everything stopped and the kids were all sent home, and they, all their extracurricular activities were taken away, and all the school was just on Zoom, and they weren't around their friends, and it was kind of a sad and lonely time. And so art again came into play. And Laura, I want to show some of what you did during that time.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, let me get to here. Okay, so Laura, tell us what you did during the
Well,
beginning of the pandemic and why.
so I was teaching, I had one class through teaching adults through adult ed. And we had looked at these photos earlier and you said, oh my gosh, they're kind of intense. These are the first ones I did. And we had to leave. Work just ended. 30 years of teaching elementary just ended. It's like you need to leave your classroom now. And then same thing through adult ed. We had to go home, and basically I was told either you figure this Zoom thing out, or we'll find somebody else to take your job. So that's very motivating, right? Uh, so I just said to my students, I'm going to make these postcards, and I'm going to make one a day. I'm going to send, you're going to get one every day as a way of staying connected. And it was kind of funny. I said, I'm going to do this till this whole thing's over and we're back in the classroom. Well, little did we know. So I really got into it. People seemed to really enjoy receiving them. It expanded beyond adult ed students. And then I got to 6 months, and I was out of steam. And they were basically small portraits, usually with some sort of food related theme, usually vintage material. They're getting a little bit funnier now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what took off for me. And then, like I said, I hit the 6 month mark, and I'm like, ugh. And then my teaching online increased to a total of 4 classes, which I still have, and making YouTube videos and creating new lesson content. So I don't know if I'll go back and do the postcard, but it was very, very helpful. It was an anchor for me and a way to stay connected to my students.
Yeah, and you had told me that your students really looked forward to getting these are your adult students through SBCC's
Right.
adult ed program, or extended learning is what it's called. So yeah, they were
Yeah.
getting one of these a day. So this was for the adult students. And then at the same time, you and I were concerned about what was going on with kids. And we decided to start an art class in the park for kids and their parents, kind of kids and adults. And it was more of like a community based thing for people to connect, and also to mark the holidays, because that's one of the things that happens when you're in school. The teachers, help the kids make different projects to celebrate, different times of the year, and all that kind of stopped. And so we had this pandemic art class, or your this is in my house. My husband bought 3 of Laura's cards, and they're framed in my kitchen. So anyway, this was our first art class that we did in the park. And Laura just brought in these plastic characters, and then taught the kids how to do some basic drawing.
Looking at toys. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking at toys. So that was in September of 2020. And then we went through and celebrated Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. So these are not sugar skulls, but they're made out of Play-Doh, but it's kind of the same concept. That was super fun. And the kids had something to take home and decorate their house.
I think we chose not to do the sugar because in past times, usually the sugar would be consumed.
Yeah, or ants would get to it, right?
Right, right.
So this was a Thanksgiving little turkey that's you can see the little placeholder thing that you can make little cards so people know where they're sitting at the table. And this is my 93-year-old mother-in-law. We would practice on some of the art projects with her, and she liked doing them. So we had kids as young as 3, like 3 to teenagers. Um, Valentine's Day, we made cards. We also made cookies, giant cookies in paper. And then we did St. Patrick's Day with like little leprechaun houses. We did solstice, we tie-dyed t-shirts. This is Fiesta. We made the pepal picado and the cascarones, the eggs. These are some other projects we did. These are mermaid purses, and they're made out of toilet paper rolls. And then you can actually add little things inside. They open up so you could put a little piece of candy or trinkets and stuff. So that gets back to that gifting. These are corn husk dolls. This is made out of a gourd,
Puppets.
a
Yeah.
puppet. Yep. And Laura, tell us about these cute characters.
Well, so this is one of my favorite projects to teach, and I'll try and make this quick, but this gets into lineage. So my mom grew up during World War II. They didn't have Toys R Us, right? They didn't have too many toys. So she had an aunt who had, it was this, she'd make out of lead wire little figures and then wrap them with yarn and clothing. I still have some of these dolls. And so I took that concept, and there's a wire frame in there. And then the kids, you make whatever head you want out of Sculpey clay and then dress them up. And they're great. They're little posable figures or toys. And so we made some of those.
Well, that was kind of the concept with the corn husk dolls too, that there wasn't always a store around. So, the pioneers traveling across the country, the kids had to make their own toys out of whatever was around. And it might be a corn husk doll. In your aunt's case during World War II, it was lead wire and string or,
Leftover
yarn.
clothing, old clothing was made out of
Yeah. So that's kind of a good survival skill. These are some linoleum carvings. And I remember sometimes we made those and we made stamps and made wrapping paper for Christmas. Um,
another gift,
another gift thing.
right?
So tell us about what it's like to do art with older people, seniors, especially seniors who are kind of at the end of their life and maybe their skills and coordination isn't so great.
Well, some of my seniors will complain, well, I've got arthritis, and so their line work is shaky. And so usually I reword that and I say, well, that's your new line now. That's your new. So how do you adapt to, you start out as a kid, your lines are all wiggly, right? And clunky, and then it gets more refined. But then towards the end of your life, which many seniors, they don't want to think about, but then you're kind of going back to maybe you're not as coordinated. So I say, well, that's your new line. And then in terms of my mother, who passed away in March, um, as she was losing her memory, I just looked at it as, she couldn't sequence beyond like two steps. Then it was, she couldn't even really hold on to one step. And so I started doing lesson step outs, like handouts, like here are the visual steps that you would do. My students seemed to really like that. So I got into making these lesson PDFs. Then I started demonstrating, and both seemed really helpful to her. At a certain point, it wasn't anymore. But as you know, because of my son, when he was younger, he was in special ed, and everything had to be chunked down sequentially so that he could do the project. So I was comfortable there. I just went, well, we just adapt, we just change it to meet your needs wherever you're at. So that's what I did with her, and that's kind of what I do with my seniors. It's like, make it work for you wherever you're at.
Yeah, well, I think that's the beauty of having a great art teacher. They can come up with a project that you're going to be successful at, regardless of, who you are, what your skills or disabilities are. One of the things we would think a lot about when we were doing these community art projects is we had a really large range of ages, and we had, like 3-year-olds all the way up to their parents who were participating. And it was small groups. It wasn't like we didn't have like 50 people. We had anywhere from maybe 8 to like 15 people, maybe 20 max. But, we were able to come up with projects that everyone could do and be successful at to some degree. And so that's really kind of a fun thing. The other thing I want to mention is I really believe you get these dopamine hits from doing art. So you create something and then it changes your brain chemistry. And the other thing that I really have noticed over the years in doing clairvoyant readings is that if you're bored, your spirit tends to kind of drift off and not really want to be in your body too much. And so art and creativity is one of the ways that you can entice your spirit into your body and help you learn how to ground, help you learn how to be more present. And in that way, it's not an extra fluffy thing. It's actually one of the most important things in the world. And we've already talked a little bit about the self-esteem issues. I know that you've done art shows with kids in elementary schools, and I can imagine, the kids being able to bring their parents and show them what they did and have other people acknowledge it. And it's not really like, because art is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's not that, oh, this is the most beautiful, elaborate thing in the world. It's something that you made and something that has some value and something that you're happy with and something that maybe you can gift to other people and something that's a source of joy and beauty, even as, maybe you're not able to continue, making stuff. So let me share the screen one last time here. So you had mentioned your mom, Laura. So we also let's go through this first. So we talked a little bit too about how art can mark time. So during the pandemic, I was adamant about not letting our holidays go. And I was adamant that we were going to celebrate every birthday and we are going to celebrate all the holidays through the year. And that was part of why we did that art class outside, so that we were, helping people do that. So tell us about this photo here. Who is this and what's going
Well,
on?
this is my husband, and he retired. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I guess it was during the pandemic. My sense of time is still really,
Like 2 years ago, I think.
it's really off. But anyway, so he retired. It was long overdue. And long story short, he likes pirates and, pirate themed things. And I like baking these crazy cakes. It's another creative outlet. And, for birthdays or graduation, that kind of thing, I like to do these mega cakes. So this one, I got a pirate ship cake mold and then just decorated the whole thing. There's little figures on there that are supposed to represent the whole family, and the
You're
dog at the helm. And so this was his special retirement cake, rum cake.
rum cake.
Yeah, so marking that time or passage with something joyful, creative, and edible, right?
Okay, does this look familiar to you?
It does, and you're going to have to refresh me
Okay,
on
so
time
this is a mosaic that you did as a 50th birthday present for my husband Oscar, and it was a drawing that my son did in third grade of their class pet, Mr. Mohawk. It was a cockatoo of some type. He did this very basic drawing. You took the drawing and you made it, you were able to expand it and turn it into a huge mosaic. It's like, I don't know, 3 feet by 2 feet or something. It's hanging above our piano. And it's just cool because that was for his 50th birthday. So that was kind of a special birthday. And it's a drawing that our son did when he was 8 that now is, part of our house. So again, marking time, using art as making it kind of extra special. So tell us about this.
Well, this is a little study. So as my mom, her last week, as she was dying in hospice, I was pretty much with her and my dad, throughout the day. And one of my favorite quotes is, art can happen anywhere, anytime. And so I'm sitting there going, oh, God, I'm so fidgety. I thought I got to do something. I got to do something with my hands. So I had a little pack of watercolor paper, postcard size, and a little set of watercolor. And then I was cleaning her mouth out with these little sponge swabs that had, it's kind of a floral shape. And I thought, oh, I guess I could dip that in the watercolor and stamp with it and roll it. So I started painting. I'm thinking of this as sort of cherry blossoms. So I did a lot of these, and then I cut them. Family members kept saying, we're seeing imagery of birds or butterflies. And of course, a butterfly is about transition or transformation. So I cut out all these butterflies and I posted or stuck 3 above her head in the hospital room. We were thinking we were going to stay up all night with her. I went home to take a shower, and then I was going to come back. And I left, and then she passed away before I had a chance to get back. So that was that. And then early on in her, I guess you could say, dementia journey, I'd been making these dolls, which she taught me how to make when I was little. She taught me many skills, cooking, the baking comes from her, sewing. So I just thought, maybe I'll make her this doll of her as a little girl. And I wasn't so sure. She loved that doll. And oftentimes when she would get scared, she would call me on the phone, and I would tell the nurse, I said, give her doll, get her doll. And we would sort of talk to each other through the doll, and she loved it. So that's supposed to be her little girl doll that she had with her the whole time. So that was helpful, and that was healing. And then this was just a little bird painting that I had made, actually, I think in one of my classes, and I put that on the wall. And then towards the end, she kept saying, take me home. I want to go home. Take me home. And she had made, this isn't the best photo of it. The color's much more vibrant, but it's a painting she had made a number of years before. She died, and my dad said, we need to put the house painting up. So that was in the room with the butterflies and the bird and family photos. And so a piece of art was featured in her transitional process. And then at the memorial, we had the painting there, and we had, for immediate family, we had, mugs made that had this image of the houses on it, and then it said take me home on the back. So just a memorable, a way to remember, a keepsake. Every time we have coffee or something in the mug, she's there with us.
I also think it's cool that it was a piece of art that she made before that was comforting to her in her last days.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it just occurred to me to mention this. So going into that last week, I mean, you're aware of this, you've been through the same process, but I mean, it was just very, very stressful. And so I was doing art, but the art wasn't enough. I needed to do something really physical. So I started doing all this gardening, moving dirt around and making this whole garden in the front of my house, which is basically, it's a memorial garden dedicated to her. And I would talk to her about that. So just creative ways to use art, cooking, gardening, right? To self-expression, but it's healing too.
Yeah, I think that it reminds us that we are creators and that we're connected to a higher creator. And it reminds us that we're still alive. If you're able to create even a basic piece of art, you have some life force energy flowing through you. It's a good distraction when you're feeling terrible. You talked about having knee surgery and not being able to get up and not being able to move. And at least you could sit there and do some art to take your mind off of how terrible you felt. And I definitely, had that too. And I think the dopamine hits that people get by creating and making things is really significant and can actually, help your body heal faster potentially too.
Well, I think it's a little bit of, there's something about it too. It's a little bit of magic, you know? I mean, we're showing all these slides, and I'm looking back and going, oh my gosh, we did all that, and for my mom too, and she just was going nuts in the hospital. So I would go in there, and maybe we were dyeing Easter eggs or making Valentine's cards and giving them to other people there. And it made those other people really happy. So it's a win-win, right?
Yeah, you mentioned what you did with all of those butterflies that you had made and put all over her wall when she finally passed.
Well, other patients in the hospital were noticing the butterflies because some of them were outside of the room too. And this one woman across the way, I mean, it's her home. She's been there for 2 years, and she noticed those butterflies and said something about it. And so I said to my daughter, let's just make a garland and give these to her. So we left it in her room. I never talked to her about it. And then we left her, some of the other patients, and then the nursing staff um, got these gift boxes as well. So this is a way of saying, thank you for your service. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Laura. Well, we could talk longer about this, but I think we should wrap it up and we can do this again. But I really like talking about the whole topic of healing and how art can be used for healing. And one last thing I want to say, and you've taken my introduction to clairvoyant healing class, so the whole concept of grounding and how important that is, you know, it was fun for you to take that class because I feel like we have some common language now to
Yes.
talk about these things in a way that maybe would have been a little hard to before. But I was telling my class this last week how um we're talking about grounding and how that's really important, where it's your spirit coming into your body, but it's not like you just learn to ground once and then you're done, because it's a constantly changing thing. And the more of your spirit you're bringing into your body, the stronger and deeper your grounding has to be to anchor that energy in. And what I've noticed with a lot of super creative people and artists is that they can tend to be kind of ungrounded. There's the stereotype of like, oh, the spacey artist. And in my experience in reading a lot of people, it's not so much that they have a weaker grounding than the average person, but it's because they're bringing in so much high frequency energy and kind of powerful energy and healing energy and creative energy. They need actually a stronger grounding and a deeper grounding and a stronger anchor than the average person, because they're bringing more spirit in. And so I think that, this whole topic of healing and grounding and spirit anchored to body on the planet, it's kind of what life is about, trying to be present with our spirit in our bodies on the planet, and then doing whatever we came here to do. That's kind of my goal. And art, I think, is a really valid and important and sometimes life-saving avenue to
Right.
practice that. So
Well,
I just really want to appreciate you. You're like a fabulous art teacher. I wish that you were my art teacher as a child, but I'm happy to have you as a friend and a co-art participant as we go through life.
I think I just want to say one thing about the artist being spacey kind of thing. And I mean, for me, it was an anchor. Often, I've said this to you before, that oftentimes, because of things going on, it's been hard to be in a physical body. It's very easy for me to go out and bring stuff back and create these imaginary worlds. And so, but to be present often at times is hard. So your class was really helpful for me to ground. And I mean, I do it through my art, but even a little bit more um, was very useful. Hopefully, I'm not a spacey.
Well, do you think you are?
I think I'm more here than I ever have been. It's not always easy, um, because I think artists, they're maybe not all, but if you're at all empathic, it can be really, really hard. Um, and then I think the other thing I got from you too is, if you want to give, which I feel like that is through my teaching and also through things I make, that is one of the things I'm here to do, is to give. But those boundaries are really, really important, you know, so that you can continue to give,
Yeah.
right?
I think a lot of artists do tend to be kind of empathic, and or you can say clairsentient, where they're feeling what other people are feeling. The other thing that they're doing is they're going kind of out and bringing in these downloads. That's kind of where they're getting their material. And so it's a tricky thing to be able to do that and then successfully, come back and be present and actually make the thing through, manifest the piece of art through your body. So
Right.
so anyway, well, Laura, how can people find out more about you and your art and access your art and art
Well,
lessons?
what really took off, and I'm assuming you're putting this in the whatever, there's
Show
links and
notes.
stuff, show notes. Yeah. So my YouTube channel, I don't know the exact, what the link is, but if you go Laura, Denny, and Art YouTube, I should come up. Um, the channel recently seems to be taking off, and so I'm going further into the land of tech, which is not that easy, but want to really spruce that up so people can go to the YouTube channel and watch lessons there. I'm also teaching through um, Santa Barbara City College Adult Education Extended Learning. You could take a class if you want. And I don't know, are you going to include links to some of those websites if they want to see the work?
I can. Yeah, I can do that. And
You can.
yeah, Laura, how many lessons do you have up on your YouTube channel right now?
Well,
I
I
know
had
you're
I had 300, but a lot of them are doubles. I got a lot of practice during the last 3 years. So now I'm like going through and cleaning up. Um, but I mean, there's just so many more I've got in the pipeline on the way that I'm itching to make. So it'll continue. And then at some point there'll be a link on my YouTube channel. I need to update my website, and there'll probably be a store and lesson
okay.
content if people want to buy it. But we're not there yet.
Okay,
Yep.
well, I'll put all those links in the show notes below. And yeah, if you want to go check out some of Laura's art lessons, you can watch her on YouTube, or better yet, take a class through Santa Barbara City College Extended Learning, and it's on Zoom, so it's remote. So if you're not in Santa Barbara, you still can access the class. And Laura, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me this afternoon.
Yeah, that was
And
totally fun. I loved it.
okay, have a
Yeah.
great great rest of your day.